Hello, thank you for being in a new video. On this occasion, I have unboxing the Samsung Galaxy A15. Let's get started. Please pay attention because there is another model with the same name but the last name 5G. So this is the 4G edition of the Galaxy A15. So its launch price in Mexico has been 3,499 pesos. On screen you see the reference price. And evidently we are in front of one of the most economical devices from Samsung, so let's get to know it below. Right off the bat, we notice that the case is very slim, so we anticipate that it's very likely that it won't have a charger. The first thing that we find here in the box is a small envelope or a small box that will most likely only bring the cable. As you can see, it comes with the cable from USB-C to USB-C and the usual documentation that I call the usual paperwork. That's basically it. Now I just need to take out the cell phone. And I already have the device in my hands. The truth is that the contents of the box is very little. The only thing left is the Samsung Care Plus promotion, which is the insurance you can buy to protect your cell phone against theft or accidents. Obviously, you can read the terms and conditions on the Samsung website. And finally, the key to remove the tray that comes at the bottom of the box. So as you realize, it is a very simple box, so it only remains to know the specifications of the device, so I'll be back in a moment after I have configured it. And that's it, I've got the device configured. As you can see, it's going to offer us some awfully big bezels, but how about we take a quick tour of its specs? It has a 6.5-inch display on its diagonal with full HD plus resolution and Super AMOLED technology. In that sense, the screen really has good features. It's a panel, I think, of good quality. But definitely the experience of having such large bezels can cause it to look like a much older device than it is. I think we were seeing this size of bezels 2 years ago possibly, so it doesn't feel as modern. And even notice that in addition to the black bezel, you can still add the frame that it has on the sides, so it ends up being really quite thick. Also, the refresh rate of this display is 90 Hz, so yes, it will be able to show us smooth and fluid movements. The screen is possibly one of its strongest points because in this price range, it's very common to see IPS screens. So I think the fact that we see a Super AMOLED screen reminds us of the best days of Samsung when we saw Super AMOLED screens even in the Galaxy J series, which was the lowest series. So congratulations, Samsung. You're getting back on the right track on this display. The device integrates the Nuki Island, which is a little relief on this side frame. It's a little design touch that can be a differentiating factor compared to devices from other manufacturers. Also, the plastic frame has a matte finish that honestly looks very nice. So it's very curious because from the front it looks like a very ugly device to me, but on the sides and on the back it really is a nice looking device. It integrates side fingerprint reader, so this is also a positive feature. The front camera is 13 megapixels with f-aperture 2.0. And as you know, here I do some first impressions tests. Before taking the picture, it still looks very overexposed, the background in this kind of backlit scenes. But after taking the picture, it seems to make a good balance of highlights and shadows. It also looks detailed enough for this price point. So, I think the front camera is a positive thing as well. Generally, all Galaxy devices tend to have good level cameras relative to their price point. And on the back we have 5 megapixel ultra-wide camera with f2.2 aperture, then 50 megapixel camera with f1.8 aperture, and finally we have the 2 megapixel macro camera with f-aperture 2.4. This last camera, you know, I consider it simply a decoration camera, so getting very strict, I would say it only has 2 cameras. And again, here I have some example pictures. This is the ultra-wide camera. Notice that it has a slight distortion at the bottom with a curvature. That's normal for lenses this wide on inexpensive devices. But color-wise, I think it does a good job considering the price point of this device. Believe me, I've seen much more expensive devices integrate worse ultra-wide cameras than this one. So I think Samsung is doing a good job on this device. Here I have now a photograph with the main camera. And again, it looks like a good picture. It's not that impressive, but if you remember its price, I think it's a camera we can accept. In fact, with the zoom 2x, it still seems to retain a good quality. So in this sense, it is giving us a good experience taking advantage of its 50 megapixel sensor. Although at maximum zoom, notice that even though it is 10x, it no longer has a good light balance, and some areas look overexposed. So it seems that at maximum zoom, the camera loses good performance. This is a photograph I took with the 50 megapixel mode, just so you can see the level of detail it is capable of. In this sense, I think it does take very good resolution pictures. So the 50 megapixels do look well used in this special mode. The macro camera honestly looks very simple to me. In fact, it achieves a similar result to what you can achieve with the main camera by applying a 2x zoom. Even the macro camera, I feel, gives us paler colors. That's why I don't care much about the result. That's why I tell you that the integration of the macro camera seems to me just a decoration to say that it has 3 cameras, because I really don't find it very useful. With the main camera, you can achieve a better result than what you have with the macro camera. So for that reason, it doesn't seem to me to be very useful. And finally, I also took a portrait picture just to see how it is, and it seems to have regular foreground detection, although it does manage to keep some simple objects in focus. But in the review, I will be showing more details of the performance that all the cameras on this device have. It supports full HD video recording at 30 frames per second. In this regard, there are obviously no surprises, but in this price range, we could not demand something superior from it. Perhaps we would like it to go up to 60 frames per second for even smoother scenes, but that's something that won't be available on this device. It weighs 200 grams and is 8.4 millimeters thick. In this case, it does feel like a heavy device. It is not that light. Although within the entry-level devices, generally devices tend to be like that, heavy. The good news is that its battery is 5 milliamps and supports 25-watt charging. The bad news is that the charger is sold separately. This is something that definitely bothered us a lot. Especially since this trend was seen a lot at the high end, where people probably didn't care much about having to pay extra for their charger. But at the entry level, honestly, it feels a bit of an abuse on Samsung's part to not include a charger in the box. Although, as I tell you, the good news is that it supports 25-watt charging, which for this price range or this range would be a pretty powerful charger. But obviously annoying to have to buy the charger separately. You don't need to buy the original Samsung charger. You could also buy standard power delivery compatible chargers, and you could get to quickly and safely charge your mobile device as well. It also comes with 4 gigabytes of RAM and 128 gigabytes of storage. I think in this case, again, there are no surprises. It's something we might expect within this price range. It doesn't surprise or disappoint. But I'll tell you what does surprise. It arrives with Android 14 and One UI 6 installed out of the box. It also has the promise of 4 years of software updates and 5 years of security patches. In this price range, no other device is going to give you that level of support, so it also gets to stand out a lot in this regard. Finally, let's test the processor power. We're talking about the MediaTek Helio G99, a processor that we've honestly already tested in other devices and we've had a very good experience. In fact, this processor is even integrated by some other manufacturers in more expensive devices. That is why it is surprising that Samsung integrates it in this economic device, because usually Samsung had us used to put very simple processors. But in this case, it seems that they have spoiled us with a good processor. Anyway, let's wait until the end of this test to review the results. And here's the score. 728 points on a single core, 1880 on multi-core. Obviously, it's not going to be an ultra-powerful processor, but for the price range, it's a processor that could prove effective for many users. The only thing that worries me a bit is the RAM, because normally Samsung's system comes pretty heavy, loaded with many options and functions that, while they can be very useful for the user, they could also load the system, and with 4 gigabytes of RAM, I'm not sure if it will give us a smooth experience. In the review, we will have those tests by opening multiple applications to see how it fares. For now, we have reached the end of this video. If you liked it, you can let us know, and we'll see you next time.